Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast. It is a scheduled off day for your Chicago Cubs as they get ready to take on the Rockies starting Friday in Denver. It is never just an off day for the CHGO Cubs crew. We are here to talk Cubs baseball because that's what we do.
Oh, yeah.
We appreciate everybody in the live YouTube chat that's going to join in today. That is the best way to enjoy the CHGO experience is to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. By the way, if we don't know by now, we are on the Roku channel. Just search CHGO Sports. And, of course, make sure you get the Die Hard membership so you get all of Ryan's content for the rest of the season and the off season. And you get all the Bears stuff and all the Blackhawks Bulls, all of it. Don't miss out. And as we found out at the takeover for the Rizzo game, a lot of people flashing that Die Hard card around. A lot of people flashing it around.
You don't want to miss out on that.
So I've heard even if you're not registered to vote coming up for the election for president, if you flash the Die Hard card, they'll let you vote twice.
Don't say that. People will actually believe that.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
You could say anything now anyway.
And then the conspiracy,
half the people on one side or the other believe
will
it.
Just
don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That's right.
That's true. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
See, there you go.
That would be so funny if someone showed up with their Die Hard
I heard I could use this.
Which presidential candidate will come out and say they support the Die Hard card first? That's when we know we've made it.
Yeah.
I've been a long-time supporter of the Die Hard card.
That's bipartisan, actually. Both sides agree that the Die Hard card is...
Well, they should, but they don't want to admit that, probably, because, Anyways.
Trump hates Chicago, so, I mean, I guess it'd be Kamala.
Probably.
The Die Hard supersedes whatever city it's in. So.
That's right. We won't get into politics anymore today.
I did not expect that at all.
We will get into, are the Cubs bad at fundamentals? Are the Cubs just a bad fundamental baseball team? And where does that go? Where does it rank in their problems if it is a problem? We will talk about some bright spots looking forward in the future down on the farm and some things that are going on that are not so bright moving forward for the franchise. And did you see the ticket price story come out today? Did you see the update on ticket prices for next year?
I did.
Interesting. Let's start with last night's game. For those that you weren't with us live at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:05 in the morning, 1:08, who's counting? Listen, the Cubs gave up 5 home runs. Is that why they lost the game? Yes. But they also tied the game and had multiple opportunities to score more runs, but at least twice base running took them out of it. And it was Craig Counsell afterwards that basically called it unacceptable. Is that what he used, the term unacceptable?
Inexcusable.
Inexcusable,
yeah.
Which I would agree with. And it got me to thinking. So I don't have a stat that backs this up other than my eyeballs and retinas, having watched the majority of the games this year, right? Is this team worse fundamentally? At the fundamentals of baseball, is this team worse than they were last year? I'm not giving credit to Ross or Counsell or anybody. Are they a better fundamental team at running the bases, catching the ball, doing the little things in baseball? Is this team better than last year's team?
No.
I would agree. I would agree that this team is much, it seems, with the eye test, this team is much worse at the little things than they were a year ago.
I will say that in the second half of the season, they've been better.
Yes.
But, when we look back, once this month is over and we look back at the games they should have won, a large majority of them will be because you didn't have a closer and because you gave outs away, you got thrown out on the bases. Bad defense, getting thrown out on the bases. I would say those are the two things. And those two things were like every single day things back in May and June.
Agreed.
You know? But giving credit where it's due, I think that a lot of that stuff has been better in the second half of the year. What happened last night in the 9th inning, it was the first time we'd really seen something like that, in my opinion, outside of, PCA being a little way too aggressive earlier in that game. We could just say that yesterday's game in general was the first time I felt like we'd seen something like that in a while. I can't think of another game of recent where you felt like you lost the game because you got thrown out on the bases or something like that,
I would like to see, like, for instance, we know there's a stat for caught stealing. We know there's an error if a guy drops a fly ball, hits his glove and he drops it, or he boots a ground ball. I want the stat geeks out there to come up with a stat that's BP, bonehead play, right? That's one that I can.
At least on the bases, was it?
What is it? I was trying to figure it out.
Nin poop? No, some.
Well, like
I'm
sure Ryan could find this one, like outs on the base paths, right? Like that stat exists. Outs created on the base paths, like when a guy runs into an out or a guy gets thrown out at the plate. But that doesn't asterisk, and it's obviously it's a judgment thing by somebody. But there's also certain plays where you can look at it afterwards and even after the game and go, asterisk, huge bonehead play.
Yeah.
No, managers should get bonehead plays. Players should get bonehead plays. And then we'll know a lot more about certain players.
Yeah, I mean, we can say both Crow-Armstrong and Michael Busch in that inning. Was the 6th inning yesterday, 5th inning?
They both get a bonehead play on that.
And, like, would Michael Busch's play have happened had PCA not made his? No. But when – I think we talk about it all the time, when even just errors itself. Like, when you make an error, you make a mistake, don't stack another one on top of it. And that's what Busch did by, trying to take home in a situation that it's a risk, and on the safe side, you just stayed at third. Hey, at least you still have third and second versus first and second.
And I know some of it's hindsight. James Colstock, who's in the chat a lot, says, to be honest, some of that's coaching. And he's basically saying, last night's double steal is an example. Like the decision, some thought it was to go for a double steal. It turns out it was Seiya.
Well, it wasn't a double steal.
It wasn't a double steal. It was Seiya going and Bellinger watching as soon as he went, and him going too.
Yeah, so because I think Bellinger had said, or someone said that Bellinger was like basically ready to go if he saw Seiya go. So maybe that was like something that they discussed in a hitters meeting pregame or something. That was just like, hey, be aware, this could be a situation. But
Counsell's comments tell you that he wanted to make it pretty clear. He didn't say I didn't call double steal inexcusable.
Yeah,
2 base running moves were inexcusable. So then I was thinking, all right, well, where does it?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the times the manager takes the fall for the players,
Yeah, but there's also points where you have to hold the players accountable.
No, I'm not taking it.
I think
what are you guys
respect
doing out
it.
there?
And there's also points where you have to hold the players accountable as well when they make a mistake. Like, I think
I'd say if it had only happened once too, like Cody was saying, think back early in the season. I can remember even Nico Horner having some base running blunders where you're like, man, Nico did that?
No,
there was a game that ended because Nico Horner got thrown out on the bases.
I feel like there's been more than one.
Second, right? Yeah, on a single up the right field line.
The Nick Madrigal one was still the most egregious.
The Reds one.
Oh, yeah.
But then that wasn't even on the player. That was on the third base coach.
Sure.
Right. That's
sure.
Still,
Willie Harris.
Willie
Harris would have multiple BPs this season.
What does Stacey King always say on Bulls broadcast? KYP, know your
Does anyone know how to post videos?
Well, third base coach has to know that.
Right. That's what I mean. So I wouldn't say the Cubs are bad, but
what's that?
I was saying, what you said, what a Stacey King always said. I said, how do you post videos to Facebook?
That's
I don't know. What did you say?
Hot sauce.
I want to go higher.
Know your personnel.
Know your personnel.
He also says
a lot of things.
Mouse in the house. He
Mouse
says.
in the house.
Get home safe, Chicago. Beep, beep.
Windy City Assassin.
Yeah.
KYP.
I want to go higher.
I've recommended that he lays that one down a little bit, but that's okay.
He uses KYP, know your personnel.
Yeah.
And
the Cubs have not known their personnel on the base pass this year.
I used to get pull the punches.
They've gotten better.
It's a low blow.
So I wanted to bring this up. I was just kind of comparing 2023 to 2024. And it's interesting when you look at the stats, it's pretty similar, if not even a little bit better in some areas than base running wise, the Cubs, than they were last year. I think there's maybe more moments that just stand out as far as base running mistakes, but like the Cubs' run scoring percentage, which is a percentage of times a base runner eventually scores a run, 33% this year, which is 4th in the majors. And last year it was 33%, and that was 7th in the majors. Outs on the bases, last year they had 60. This year they're at 58, I believe. Basically on pace to kind of match that. Extra bases taken, which is something that we've talked about with a team that doesn't slug. You got to be able to do that. Go first to third on singles. Turn a single into a double type thing. This year they're like 8th, I think, in the majors with a 44% extra base taken percentage. So that's the percentage of times the runner advanced more than one base on a single or more than 2 bases on a double when possible. And then last year they were 8th with a 44%. So basically the exact same. They had a higher stolen base percentage this year so far than they had last year. I think they've stolen more bases this year than they did last year by a smaller amount. Or actually, no, they're just behind. They have 131 this year, 140 last year. But their stolen base success rate is 83% this season versus 80% last season. So
they're also top 10 in the league in steals this year.
Yeah, which is, again, another thing that as far as a team without a lot of slug, I think you said they had like 20th or something like that, and like home runs or slugging percentage.
Yeah, I've got the offensive stats, which that's kind of what some of the people in chat are talking about. And James is saying, like, hey, giving him the green light is the coaching decision. I understand what you're saying. I don't love the green light in the first place when it's Seiya, but that's also like giving someone a green light on 3-0. If the ball's in the dirt, you don't swing at it.
Yeah.
So like you give them the green light to not be an idiot.
Yeah. To know when
you can't be totally foolish.
Yeah. But so just to close out what I was saying, like I definitely think, and it might be even more recency bias, why it feels like this team is worse base running wise at least than last year. But it seems like they're pretty similar to where they were at last year. The outs on the base is like last year they were 4th with their 60, and this year they're 2nd with their 58. Like that's when you're leading the top of the league. When you're leading the league or you're near the top of the league and outs on the bases like that doesn't. That's obviously not a good thing. You want to have as fewer as less outs on the bases as you can. The fact that they have such a high stolen base percentage near the top of the league is a good sign. The fact that they're taking extra bases at a good percentage is a good sign. The fact that, like I said, 33% of the run scoring percentage, 33%, which is 3rd in the league, like that seems like a good sign.
I'm curious, where do the Brewers rank in that?
In the base running? Steals?
The one that I'm saying, the one that I just said.
Just like outs on the bases.
Oh, outs on the bases. The Brewers rank 4th with 53.
I may be imagining this, and my mind's not always super sharp, but didn't in Nashville, when he was sitting down talking to the media for the first time, Craig Counsell, didn't he say they were going to be aggressive? Yeah. He wanted them to be, no matter what, he wanted them to be aggressive on the base paths. Okay, that shows. And I don't have a problem with the guy getting thrown out when he gets a good jump and it was a good throw or whatever it might be. What I have a problem with is running yourself out of an inning in the 9th inning when the game's on the line.
And that's where you
that's a BP. That's a bonehead play.
That's where you kind of have to draw the line out of it. Is like I'm saying, like they're 2nd in the league and outs on the bases. On its surface, doesn't present as a good thing. I don't know exactly how many of those are like you said, how many of those are. It doesn't separate between how many are the ones that a guy was trying to take 1st to 3rd, got thrown out on the best throw the guy could have made, versus PCA getting thrown out, just not paying attention to where Nico and Bush were doing. Like, it doesn't separate those things. I would assume there's a good mix of both of those things where it's just a guy being aggressive and the other team beating them. There's definitely a bunch of times where they've ran themselves into outs. Like, I'm not saying that's not a thing, but I also think with a team without a slug, a team that has to manufacture runs in certain ways, has to be more aggressive. I will say, to me, my initial thought would be like that team is probably going to get thrown out on the bases a little bit more.
Sure.
It's about limiting the outs that you didn't have to make.
It's the bonehead plays. The missing the cutoff man isn't an error, but I would love to see it be like in hockey where, they call Toronto and Toronto decides, have someone that's been a former manager. You have Joe Madden in charge of bonehead plays for the league, and people are targeting these things, and after the game he calls the manager. Was that a bonehead play? Did you give the green light on that? You did? But it was still a bonehead play? Check, bonehead play. So we'll get more into it in just a second. I'll go over some of these other problems the Cubs have had. But first, place with no problems whatsoever. Empire Today. You get to shop with at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire is your one-stop flooring shop. They want to provide the best and most efficient service. It's not necessarily the most affordable, but you will have the best experience working with Empire. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed, so competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire wouldn't even carry. So Empire won't promise you the lowest prices, because anybody who does that is just putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their own house. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes, just the best. They have a virtual floor designer, so you can see how the new floors would look in any space. It's easy. You just snap a picture and see instantly how the new flooring would look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store? Hey, go ahead, but that's a roll of the dice. It's risky business, and it can be frustrating too. You might be talking to somebody who was working in lumber or plumbing or selling you, refrigerators the day before. It's a different business. At Empire today, they pride themselves on their convenient shop-at-home service. They have great shopping for floors. They service their own warranties. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service their warranty themselves. You don't have to track down that manufacturer's phone number. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off. That discount is spectacular. $350 off. All you have to do is use the promo code CHGO. CHGO. $350 off. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details.
I got to tell you guys about Family Farms, our friends over at Family Farms. Family Farms' culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized taste buds since 1974. Join Family Farms on this flavorful adventure where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms. The tradition continues. Now you can find Family Farms bacon-wrapped chicken even easier. Look for Family Farms in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burcott's. Did I say it? Burcott?
I believe it's Burcott's.
Burcott's.
Craving. It's woven, not woven, but that's all right.
I've never said I'm a good speaker.
I let it go, but then I couldn't.
Woven. Anyway. Craving a taste of home without leaving yours? Check out baconwrappedchicken.com or click on the link for our Amazon store, which also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage. And to find out when Family Farms' new amazing Cajun Nation flavors will become available with an authentic Louisiana bite. Experience a flavor that's become a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, Burcott's, or go on Amazon, baconwrappedchicken.com. That sounds amazing.
It does sound really good.
Sounds amazing.
I tried it. It's good.
Kevin, do you have that clip from Cliff Floyd on Marquee last night talking about the...
We do.
Oh, we do. All right.
We haven't. Oh, yeah.
Let's start with that. I want to just hit on this fundamental things a few more seconds before we get to the minor league guys. Let's listen to Cliff Floyd about the failed stolen base by Seiya Suzuki.
But look, you can say it's that. You can say the fact that he didn't get a big enough jump. Your lead has to be big enough where he steps off. Like that. Look, you're still in third base with a lefty at the plate. Michael Kopech is not going to step off and throw it at second. Closers don't do it.
They don't do it.
I mean,
you can go back. Pick moves.
You can go back to the bottom half with Trey on the mound. Wingenter, like you let a guy, you let Teoscar steal second. I mean, it wasn't even a thought. He took off before you even started your windup. That's what Seiya had to do in that situation.
So again, I'm just trying to figure out where fundamental baseball falls into the flaws of the 2024 Cubs. I think we can agree that no closer and bullpen injuries and bullpen construction has been a big part of it. I know we agree that the offense has been part of it throughout the season, right? So then I went and looked, and I was like, all right, where do they rank in team home runs? Who's first? The Orioles, the Yankees, Dodgers. Enough said. It's important. The Cubs are 20th in baseball in home runs. Who ranks behind the Cubs in home runs this season? The Angels, Rangers, Tigers, Cardinals, Blue Jays, Pirates, Marlins, Rays, Nationals, and of course, the White Sox. All garbage teams, right? Like it's a
reigning
common
World Series champions in that list.
They are, but they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a common thread going through the major leagues. You don't hit enough home runs where the Cubs are in there. Almost 2/3 of Major League Baseball hits more. OPS, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Yankees lead the majors. Common thread, they're all good. They're all going to the postseason. The Cubs are 15th. Who's behind them? Guardians, Giants, Rockies, A's, Cards, Reds, Nats, Tigers, Mariners, Angels, Pirates. All. So the Cubs are average or mid at best, and the teams after them all stink. The outlier is the Guardians. The Guardians get it done without the big offense.
I would say their offense is probably their best thing, though, but they have a superstar player.
That's right. Like a true superstar player.
They go as Jose Ramirez goes, and also Stephen Kwan has had
they don't blow saves after the 7th inning.
That too, yeah. They have a great bullpen.
That's right. Their bullpen is spectacular.
Class A is like
the Dodgers bullpen has been great. Right?
Yeah.
Right now, the only non-playoff team in the top 10 in runs is the Red Sox. The Cubs are 13th. What? Average and mid. So what do we have? We have a team that is average or mid. They're right there at like the 500. So what if you're that close to average at everything? What tips the scale? Not making bonehead plays. You got to play fundamental baseball.
For a team like this, yeah. That's why they were projected for 90 wins last year entering September.
Yeah.
Like someone in the chat said, I think it was James, said last year the Cubs turned 137 double plays. This year, 78. Now, I don't know. I can't
Pitchers
explain.
are part to blame for that. Maybe.
I guess, but also, it is something that I've noticed all season. Man, it feels like we were turning a ton of double plays last year and not so much this year. Are pitchers not getting it more ground balls? Are we getting more strikeouts? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. At the same time, though, I do feel like they've had some moments where they could have had a double play and then things didn't work out because of defense, so that's just me talking, generalizing. I can't go back and name a particular moment, but it is interesting that, that stat that James threw in there. And last year's team, they went over on the extremes that you needed for that team to be good, like Bellinger having the best year of his career for the first time in 4 years, right? And, Horner even had a great year that no one really was sure that he would have. I mean, he had top 10 in baseball in hits, and, Justin Steele was awesome. And, I could keep going on the list. ALLCITY emerged as the closer, This year, they've had some extremes from young players like PCA and Bush and Porter Hodge, and Luke Little was on path until he got hurt, and I think Ben Brown, he was definitely giving you something that we all didn't know what to expect. I feel like a lot of the young rookie players types gave you stuff that we weren't sure we would get, but we had optimism that we would, but they haven't got enough from the guys they're paying this year. And last year, you got more from the guys you were paying. Swanson was almost a 5-WAR player last year. Horner was almost a 5-WAR player last year. They've both been fine this year. I mean, Dansby more so defensively for the entire year. He's been awesome. The offense was not a non-factor first half of the season. Horner, still valuable, but just not anywhere close to last year offensively, in my opinion.
No.
But yeah,
we definitely haven't seen improvements from him offensively.
It's been pretty much the same, if not worse, in my opinion. So, Seiya didn't take the step they needed. The one guy that I feel like that you're paying that I feel like has had a good or what you would expect season, and I would argue that it's been better than what anyone expected to this point, is Ian Happ. Because the last couple years, he had finished with just over 20 homers. He entered September with 20 homers. So there's still a chance he could have more than 25 homers by the end of the year.
Could end up with another Gold Glove. Right. It's left field.
But overall, he's pretty much been what we've always thought he would be. But I do think that there has been more slug from him this year. So I just think that when you compare this year's team with last year's team was better on the fundamentals. They made all the right plays when they absolutely needed to, except in September. But this year's team, they're playing their best baseball at the right time when you need them to. But you also can't just be atrocious for 2 months at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, and to me, the reason they were atrocious the first 2 months of the year, or May and June at least, was all of these things that we've been talking about. You can argue the bullpen has some play in that too, but in the offense. But they also gave away games based off just these boneheaded plays that we're talking about.
The double play thing I would need to look more into, because that also depends on how many opportunities they had with double plays. Like, sure. I mean, even think about, like, you got rid of Marcus Stroman, who was a big ground ball pitcher, and added Shota Imanaga, who's a big fly ball pitcher. So that takes away double play opportunities. You have a lot more velo in your bullpen, which usually leads to more strikeouts or whatever. Obviously takes it. So if you have a guy on first base with 1 out, you get a strikeout, you lose a double play opportunity, but you got the strikeout, right? So I would need to look into that more, and just to see if there's like a correlation that they're turning fewer double plays than just having less opportunities,
Yeah. I hate to shit on this guy, but I mean, Morel did not work out at third base.
No, and Paredes hasn't been very good since
he's been better than Morel. He's been better than Morel, but that's not saying much.
When you have a 3-air game this week, it's
I wanted to
He had some nice plays over in this Dodgers series. It's just, again, he's
I have
been
more
better,
confidence than Morel, but that's it's a short bar.
I wanted to look at because I've heard the talk about what you brought up, the hitting stats, the home runs, OPS, whatever. Right. And I wanted to look into it because we've been hearing about like the Cubs. I mean, we've seen it too. Like, they can't hit at Wrigley. Like, it's been a struggle for them to hit at Wrigley all year, which is just not. It feels abnormal. So I was just kind of looking at where they are away from Wrigley. OPS wise, they're 8th in baseball with a 741 OPS. What was another one you had? Home runs.
Yep.
Right. Home runs, they're 11th in baseball with 84, tied for 11th with 84. Slugging percentage-wise, they are 9th in baseball with 413.
So we're blaming the landmark?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But, like,
wind blowing in a lot? I don't know. I'd be curious what other teams have done at Wrigley.
Yeah, and this is not to say that they haven't, like, their offense has been great all year or whatever. I'm just, like, it is very curious to look at the road and home splits. Yeah. When you look at the overall numbers, then you realize, like, wait, it's the home splits are kind of dragging that down. I'm
not even saying that they're bad fundamental baseball players, because baseball is a funky. I acknowledge right off the bat, baseball's a funky sport. They just won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Like, they were winning games they shouldn't have won. It's a bizarre sport, and I can't even say this is Counsell's fault, because they were better at it last year with a different manager, and it's the manager's job to make sure. But he also can't go on the field and get in a guy's head and say, you shouldn't run for third. You got to hit the cutoff guy there. You can't collide in the outfield. Like, you got to know how many outs there are, all that stuff. Like, yes, we put that on the manager, but he's not the guy doing it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I just don't know if it's bad luck. I don't know if they are frustrated and they have got too much going on in their head. I don't know what it is. I'm just telling you, they're not as good at it this year as they were last year.
Yeah. Related to the hitting stats at home compared to on the road, I would love to see Cubs pitching stats at home compared to on the road. And I would, based off what we all want to jump to, is just, is the wind blowing in more than normal?
Right. Yeah.
If the Cubs have better pitching numbers at home than they do on the road, I guess maybe that leans more towards there is more wind factor. I will say here in September, when they've played at home, there have been a lot of games they played where the wind is blowing in. And I still haven't forgot about that one random game against the Cardinals where Patrick Wisdom hit a moonshot 111 miles per hour.
Everyone thought it was gone.
And it should have been gone. They had a whole breakdown of it on Marquee from StatCast that said the wind blew it in. Like, I'm not going to sit here and blame the wind on why the Cubs haven't had better offensive numbers, but it is a factor at Wrigley. Because if you look at I think they talked about it on Marquee the other day. Like like the most homers in around ballparks and baseball. Most homers have been hit at Dodger Stadium, and that automatically would make you. Well, yeah, Ohtani has almost 50, but Freeman has like 20, and Betts doesn't even have 20. So it's like, okay, how do you lead baseball when two of your top 3 players aren't hitting homers like we're used to? I mean, Betts had like almost 40 last year. Freeman's I don't know how many times has he hit 30 plus homers?
A lot, probably.
In terms of home runs, the 2 of the 3 of them are down this year. So it's like other teams are coming into that ballpark and hitting homers too. I mean, the Cubs did it this week.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, Tommy Edman
has
raised
the home run numbers. The Cubs, though, like are at Wrigley, they're in like bottom 5. And I think that has to do with the fact of who the Cubs have on the roster too. But no one else is coming in there and hitting homers.
We'll talk about some positive things in a second, but first, let's talk real positive. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon, crafted at Coors Field, where the Cubs will play their next game. In Denver, it's the natural choice all season long. Summertime shy, give me a Blue Moon to cool off. Blue Moon was brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia and get you excited for the new season. A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you. With Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale, it's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter, celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad. I didn't realize mine.
It's all right. Cody was placing a wager.
I was placing a wager.
He was getting ready for Thursday Night Football. He was just
looking at those sweet, tight money line splits.
Sweet, tight money line splits. I mean, you can probably get the best odds on the Bills to win outright in Miami tonight on Circus Sportsbook, whether it's pro or college. The app to bet football is Circus Sports Illinois. Circus Sports. It's sports betting the way it should be. Circus Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams and every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circus Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And yes, I am taking the Bills tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's put on our rose-colored glasses and explain to everybody why the future is bright. Brought to you by Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO at checkout for 35% off your polarized sunglasses. Best in the business. I'll tell you why it's bright. Cam Smith. Right?
Yeah, Cam Smith.
First-round pick this year is already a top 100 prospect in baseball.
Apparently he hit a inside the park homer today.
Yeah, inside the park home run today.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's fast.
So everything he's done since joining the Cubs organization.
Home runs in Myrtle Beach,
something like that.
6 games straight with a home run.
I would like to know how long it took him to run the bases. We got to put that up next to PCA and compare.
Yeah. So he's number 100 on MLB Pipeline's top 100 right now. So he's 7th in the Cubs system, though. And it's good for the Cubs overall, but definitely for Cam Smith, obviously, coming out of Florida State this year.
I was happy to see that Chicago native and former first-round pick Ed Howard.
I was confused.
He's up to Iowa.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I think probably just to play more because the other minor league seasons are ending.
Season ended.
Get a little extra playing time.
Sure.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him, but like we have to also not acknowledge too that it's, and I do blame a lot of it on injuries, but he had a disappointing season in the minor leagues this year, and I don't know.
Why not let the guy continue to play? You know, like it's lost so much time.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
I don't send him to the fall league.
I don't have an issue with them moving him up to Iowa, just letting him play.
I don't have an issue with it either. All I'm saying is him going to Iowa doesn't make me think that he's coming to the Cubs anytime soon.
No,
I don't think that's the point. I don't think he should because he has lost.
And I'm sorry for saying that.
It hasn't been great in the minor leagues.
The minor league system is the only optimism we have left the rest of the year, but like. I'm so tired of talking about prospects. I'm ready to see these prospects play for the Cubs. But as far as Ed Howard, it is I hope it's good experience for him, and it hopefully plays well, and it helps propel him next season, because it's been an unfortunate ride for him in the Cubs organization.
Cam Smith just sounds like he's on the right track.
Yeah.
Early on, he's let's put it this way, he's out of the gates quickly.
Myrtle Beach had an 1175 OPS in 15 games. Then he got promoted to South Bend, had a 921 OPS in 12 games, 48 at-bats per in both those stints. And obviously recently promoted to Tennessee. 2 games, 7 at-bats. So obviously, even smaller sample size in those first 2 stints, the bottom 2 levels of the Cubs system. He has a 1500 OPS right now with Tennessee. So, or at least he hit an inside the park home run today. So this isn't even including his home run from today. So it probably got a little higher potentially. I think something we knew about Cam Smith coming in is college bat, supposed to be a good college bat, with power, and a guy that could potentially move up through the system pretty quickly, as Matt Shaw did last season, or coming from last season. Not that I'm shocked. Not that it's just shocking, because we knew that coming in. I think I'm just pleasantly surprised of how good he's looked, and lower levels of the minor leagues too. But just the bat has been really good since the minute he stepped on one of the Cubs facilities in the Cubs affiliates. He's just been hitting the cover off the ball, and it's obviously better than the alternative of him struggling coming in here. So that's a great sign from Cam Smith. When is he ready to come to the Cubs? That's obviously a question for a later time, but you continue on a trajectory, you're gonna start knocking on some doors.
It's cool that your last 2 first-round draft picks have, not even in their first full season have made it up to Double-A, because Shaw did it last year too. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in his first full year of pro ball next year.
Well, organizationally too, it makes sense, right? Because Shaw and Cam Smith being 2 upperclassmen in collegiate baseball made sense for the Cubs where they're at in terms of their prospect capital to draft guys who can accelerate through the system. They're not in a rebuild, quote unquote. So you want guys to be able to come up in 1 to 2 years and play ball,
quickly supplement the roster. Yeah,
it makes sense.
And I'm not rooting against Paredes, but if Paredes is more like this year, is more like he is more like the last 2 months with the Cubs, or month and a half, whatever, with the Cubs next year, if it's not more of 30 home run Paredes with the Rays, then you can always move on after next year. I personally don't think we're going to see Cam Smith next year on the Cubs. There's nothing that suggests that we will, unless there's major injury, or he just even if he performs at a crazy level, I don't think we will, just based off how the organization operates. So I think you have a good situation with Paredes. It's better than what you had with Morel as far as defense. The bat needs to be better, or more consistent at least. It has been better of late, but it needs to be better for him to be a 5-hole hitter for this team. But there's just nothing that suggests that we're going to see Cam Smith next year. So I'm not getting excited about it. And the only way that I will get excited about it is if this team starts winning, and then they can incorporate someone like him that in turn is one of those extremes that we talk about that makes the team better. That's how I feel about it.
Jake Hazen 20 says Jed Hoyer kind of sucks, but he's good at evaluating young talent. Well,
you got to give Dan Kantrowitz some credit too.
I was going to say, so
it's a Dan Kantrowitz thing in my opinion.
Now, prospects when they get drafted, who do you give the credit to, right? Obviously, it falls eventually at the feet of the president or general manager. They're overseeing everything. But even the Theo days, did Jason McLeod and his scouts get a lot of the credit for that? With that in mind, the Cubs, credit to Cody for catching this in USA Today, they have just fired 4 of the young scouts, and according to USA Today, they have told their scouting department they will no longer scout games at any level except the Complex League and Dominican Summer League. What? Listen, I know times are tough, but like it sounds like they're slashing and cutting their budget for scouting, which seems odd.
I wouldn't,
Unless here it comes. What if they're cutting scouting because you don't need scouting when you're going to throw boatloads of cash at Juan Soto? Cody, you don't need to scout Soto.
What in my mind,
they got to save any money they can for Soto.
Yeah.
We're willing to put our super chats into the fund if that's what it takes.
My mind immediately goes to they have an AI type system that they're going to be able to watch as much baseball as they have without paying the human element part of it. Like a lot of companies are going to. They're going to be able to find other ways to watch these games, scout these guys, have algorithms to see who goes where and who's going to impact what at what level at a certain time. To me,
robots. You're saying it's robot. George Jetson's going to be scouting for the Cubs now.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're going to have algorithms in place.
Dating yourself there.
You don't know who George Jetson is?
George Jetson, like from the Jetsons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who the Jetsons are.
Okay, then I'm not dating myself that much.
Well,
a young punk like you knows what I'm talking about.
I know who George Jetson is. I don't understand the reference there.
Well, they were flying around on spaceships.
You didn't understand
He had a robot. What was her name?
I know
the robot
the
on the Jetsons.
I don't know how it connected there.
Who was the robot's name?
Couldn't tell you.
They had a robot like maid. Braxton.
By the way, that is not me with any inside information. That's just where my mind goes.
No, I don't have any either.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Kevin. I'm buying it.
Wait, so
robots are scouting for the Cubs. They've got droids now.
Yep. They're no longer
C-3PO is now scouting for the Cubs at all kinds of levels.
What was that last point? They're no longer scouting games at any level
except for the Complex League and the Dominican
Summer League.
I didn't fully understand that part. All I know is that 4 young scouts were let go. Yeah. And the first part was while slashing their budget.
It was from Bob. It was from Bob Nightingale's notebook that he wrote on Sunday. He puts this out every Sunday, and it literally is just like a bunch of bullet point stuff. And it's like towards the bottom, and like legitimately what Luke said is what all it says. Like there's no context to it at all.
Yeah, what does that mean, slashing the budget? Like this
is not. It's not even a real like. It's
how much is it for this season? They fired some scouts at the end of the season, or
also like
they're not replacing those scouting jobs. You're not going to have 4 more scouts next year.
Also, what does slashing the budget mean? Like, what is your threshold for when cutting becomes slashing?
What was your budget for? In a day and age when we know they have to develop players, aren't scouts about as vital as it gets? Isn't scouting?
No, scouting
isn't scouting like the roots of the grass for your entire organization?
No, scouting is hugely important when we're talking about whether it's your scouts that go out to high school and college games and help you find guys like Matt Shaw and Cam Smith. And obviously your head of scouting and Dan Kanjovitz and just all the guys that scout major league teams or minor league teams. You know, there was a scout that surely told the Cubs front office about Michael Busch, who was not getting a lot of time with the Dodgers, right? Someone had to be scouting him. And then that's where you end up with that trade. And a guy that, like we talked about, has had a really good year and has the makings where you're like, I could see this guy being the first baseman in the future. Someone had to scout that guy. You couldn't just do that based off numbers alone.
Wasn't a robot yet.
So,
again,
you pointed it out to me. You concerned about it or not?
I am concerned about it because the one thing this organization that's done well in the Hoyer era is scout, and now you're cutting 4 of them, and there's no reason why. And I'm blaming Bob for this, for even putting it out there to tell me. I wish he wouldn't have told me. Thanks, Bob. All right, but. Like, I would like more context on why they are doing this, because it is legitimately the one consistently good thing that they've been doing in the Jed Hoyer era, which was something that they really struggled at during the golden era, you know? So, like, I like if you want me to be overly optimistic about things in this organization, it was that, and now you're cutting 4 scouts, and it makes me raise an eyebrow. It makes me wonder, like, you know, all of the best teams in baseball that we talk about, even though some of them spend boatloads of cash on guys like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, they also develop really well, and they're always in the top 10 in farm systems, okay? I want the Cubs to spend $500 million every year, but, man, at least they have been doing the developmental part and scouting part well, and you made that trade for PCA, and he is looking like a stud for you for the future. You got to keep doing it, though. You can't go through a 3-4 year stretch where you're not doing it, and you find yourself selling assets again so you can fix your farm system. It's you have to do it consistently well. That's why the Dodgers have won the division every year for the last 14 seasons or whatever it is. Well,
I think, like you said, just there's a major lack of context.
Yeah.
With what Bob Nightingale reported, is it purely a cost cutting move? Because obviously that is a bad thing. Is it you're taking whatever you were paying those 4 scouts or whatever that was, you're taking that money, those resources, and repurposing it somewhere else? Obviously,
Soto fund.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, obviously, the video and the data that you can get from AA and AAA levels and game stuff is at a level that wasn't previously seen. Is at a very good level. You can get StatCast data for AAA games now, so maybe you don't necessarily need humans there to watch the games when you have a lot of other resources to get. I'm not saying it's a great thing. Right. I'm just saying there are reasons I can think of that could be behind it that don't necessarily mean, hey, we need to cut some money out
do the Cubs strike you as an organization that would make a move that could impact them at all levels like this without having a backup plan in place? Because to me personally, it could be an ignorant thing to say, but that they don't strike me as that type of organization. I think they would have a plan in place before doing something like this. Well, I think that they do have something in place.
The White Sox also cut scouts, veteran scouts. This wouldn't raise my eyebrow if it just said fired 4 young scouts, because I knew this was going to trigger Niren in the live YouTube chat, because he's always complaining about drafts and development, and they're not good at either. And look at the drafts, look at the guys they missed, look where are the other guys coming, right?
And now he doesn't think I know anything. So.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
No, a lot of people don't think I know anything. So
yeah, exactly.
Who let this engagement baiting idiot podcaster on this?
At least Niren's come to some events. He can,
that's why I let Niren think what he wants to think, man. That's fine. If I don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine.
But it wouldn't bother me if it didn't add on to the fired 4 scouts and then while slashing budget.
And that's what I'm saying.
The while slashing budget part from Bob is the part that goes, huh?
Yeah.
Even if it was to go to AI, even if it's your theory, AI can do some of this stuff, you still need people to evaluate the numbers at some point.
And the person, too. You need to know the personality of the player.
All of it. You got to see how the guy's reacting in situations.
It's not a foolproof.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
Just interesting.
Hopefully we get some context that, in Jed's season-ending presser or something, or
certainly be asked about.
Ryan can just ask him, the next time he sees him, and we can get some context, because it's just for Bob to just put that out there and then not put any context. It's very annoying.
Let's keep in mind too, Jed Hoyer and Bob Nightingale don't exactly have the greatest rapport, as we've seen. I'm sure they have.
Bob
a nice
and Jerry go
level.
hand in hand, so anything to make the Cubs look negative. Sure,
correct.
I understand the theory you're saying. So you're saying end of press conference, if we could dial in, and Ryan raises his hand and then hands a phone right over the microphone and says, actually, it's Delmendo from CHGO.
Jeez.
Just last name.
I get kicked out of Wrigley Field.
Hey, it's Delmendo from CHGO. Just want to know, are you raising ticket prices and cutting scouts because you're going after Soto? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah. I'd be kicked out. I'd be banned from Wrigley Field if I did that.
That's the next part of it. Today we find out from Megan Montemurro that season ticket prices are going up with this weird thing but they get to secure 2 of the gate gifts before the season. So they're guaranteeing them 2 bobbleheads?
Another Advert ALLCITY bobblehead?
What? Wait a minute. Are you telling me season ticket holders don't automatically get all the bobbleheads?
Well,
I have
well,
no
for
idea.
instance,
Corey was in the chat.
Corey's got to jump in here. Corey, are you telling me you don't automatically get the ALLCITY bobblehead, the Bellinger bobblehead?
What I was going to say is like the tank tops they gave out in the bleachers this year during the summer, they were just for the bleachers.
Oh, really?
They weren't all across the ballpark. It was just the bleachers. I'm pretty sure.
If I'm a season ticket holder, I want all that stuff, and I want to choose my size.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I also
for as much as they charge for
and
them.
if it doesn't fit, I want to send it back and get the other size.
Yeah.
You can ask your rep for them, Corey says. Also, don't season ticket holders get to go in the ballpark first?
Yes.
So if it's one of those like first 10,000 fans or whatever, all you have to do is
but
just
if
be
you're
in the ballpark.
Corey, do you want to show up at the ballpark 3 hours before the game?
You gotta get in line to get his hot dog.
Shouldn't he just be able to go into one line and be like, "Hey, season ticket holder, last name,
3 hours,
last name, account number, whatever," and they just hand him the bobblehead?
It's like 2 hours, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
Corey,
what do you think about the ticket prices going up? You feel good about that?
He did say
So
something.
what was it?
Is it okay if it's the Soto Fund?
He did. He put a.
He had a comment about his disappointment.
Season ticket holder checking in to express my disappointment in this organization once again. LOL.
Season ticket holder Corey Friedman.
It's the Bernie Sanders meme if you just put the once again at the very beginning.
So I found Megan Montemero's tweet about the season ticket. Did you say this? I don't know if I missed you saying it, that the 2025 season tickets increase ranges from 1.6% to 6.4% and cover the team's loss of 2 home games for the Cubs playing in Tokyo, as apparently part of the calculus.
Okay. Listen. I love the Chicago Cubs, but the money you're going to make from playing in Japan is going to greatly outweigh. I'm not a finances guy. The money you're going to make from internationally taking
the TV contract on that's
the money from taking 2 of your Japanese star players with the Dodgers to go over and play in Japan, the amount of jerseys you'll sell, the attention you're bringing to your organization is greatly going to outweigh any 2 home games at Wrigley Field. I call straight BS on that one.
Yeah.
If I was a season ticket holder, I wouldn't buy that, and I also wouldn't be thrilled they're saying, here are 2 bobbleheads.
It's very like, how do I say this? It's very like bold, like very bold of them to just actually put that information out there for people to know, like, this is why we're increasing it whenever you haven't made the playoffs since 2018, haven't won a playoff game since 2017, and you're going to be coming off a very disappointing season. It's very bold of them to put that information out there. Am I wrong on that? Like, I like
the transparency, but I don't love the I don't love the reason they gave.
Right. But
yeah,
like if I'm a season ticket holder, if I'm Corey right now, and I know Corey's going to keep his tickets because they've been in his family for decades.
Corey likes going to games.
He likes going to games.
He knows it's a bad deal, and he's just a wallet to him.
Yes, he licks. No one licks Tom Ricketts' boot like Corey Friedman does. Okay. It's okay.
Put that on a YouTube short. Just that.
Yeah. Corey, cover your ears. He licks
Tom. That's got to be Corey's new Twitter handle.
He licks Tom's boots, and what did he say earlier?
Nobody licks Tom Ricketts' boots like Corey Friedman
does.
He's also
Cody Delmendo, CHGO.
Be a great obvious shirt.
But for real though, like if
you
are a season ticket holder and you get that email, I'm assuming that Megan got this information from an email of sorts, and you read that yourself, and you've been going, even if you've just been a season ticket holder for let's say the last 5 years, and the team hasn't got to a point to where it's like, this is worth keeping. Like, unless there's drastic changes to make this team a real contender this offseason, I guess you have until a certain date in the winter to decide. But to me, it's a very bold thing. And believe me, I know that people will drop their season tickets, and then people who've dreamed of getting season tickets will still get them anyway. Yeah. All right, so it really doesn't mean anything.
My parents got the email for after
they didn't do
20 years away, and they said nope.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go, I want to ask you, quick vote. What's more gross? Corey Friedman licking Tom Ricketts' boots on a regular basis, or The guy from WGN who licks his bat in a softball league.
No,
it's the softball bat. Which one? Which licking is more disgusting?
All right. To be fair, I think we bullied him into stopping doing that this year.
Because it was. You're talking about Corey, or you're talking about the softball guy?
Corey's not going to stop going to games. Nothing we can do about that. No, the softball thing.
Tom, come here.
16-inch softball league, kissing the bat like Babe Ruth, or I don't know, who kissed their bat before going up to that?
It's disgusting.
Yasiel Puig. He's
Yasiel Puig did
it. Yeah, no, that's definitely gross. Yeah.
Also, before we leave, real quick, I wanted to. You had mentioned like looking at the Cubs pitching stats, home and away. Mm-hmm. As far as at home, the Cubs have a 3.15 ERA, which is second in baseball. Opponents have a weighted on base average of 281, also second in baseball. Away from Wrigley Field, where's this thing? They are, hold on, I'm getting there. Their ERA is 4.42, which is 22nd in baseball. Opponents have a weighted on base average of 320, which is also 22nd in baseball.
On the road. Yeah.
This is on the road, yeah. So
that's crazy.
It looks like we were kind of saying, and I think like if you just watch the games, you could tell Wrigley's not played well for hitters this year.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's always this massive.
Listen, I can't blame the ballpark, and I can't blame the fans.
You can't do anything about it.
My point of this podcast is I blame the team for a lot of things, and the players for being bad at fundamental baseball this year.
No,
I hope it's an outlier.
I'm absolutely not using it as an excuse. I think it was just something that we haven't talked about. That I'm like very interesting that. And not that Wrigley's always a major hitter's ballpark or anything. For whatever reason, this year, the weather has played it to a point where it's been a pretty poor hitter's park this year.
Yeah. I think to go with that, too, is, Shota Imanaga, the Cubs have won most games that he started, and I feel like he's had more starts at home. If I would guess. If you would ask me to guess, I would say that he's had more starts at home than on the road, and he's been awesome. So, it is that's such a difference though in terms of earned run average alone and weighted on base average.
Mm-hmm.
So
Corey and
top
Brendan
10 versus bottom 10.
Corey and Brendan with the next podcast coming up after the Rockies series in Colorado. We'll be back Monday, of course, right here for another podcast starting with the next series once the Cubs return home. Until then, thanks for watching and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.